I think I'll change glasses several times. That'll be my contribution.
I come home
Got it.
from work sometimes. I come home from my job. I had a hard day at the office, dealing with a bunch of rubber snakes. One of the kids is in the driveway. He's shooting skeet with my rifle.
Good evening, colleagues across town and across the globe. Here it is, the 30th day of July in the year of our Lord 2020. For those historians who are looking at this program on whatever devices you're using these days, I can tell you that it was a lovely, lovely day here in Houston, Texas, and probably around most of the country. But you know, there's water out there that's being whipped up by Mother Nature. So we're in hurricane season, and boy, have we got a lot of action to tell you about tonight. As usual, for the last few times I've been on the air with you, I have brought with me some of the crack investigators who used to work behind the scenes and simply provide me the information that I could provide you that nobody else was telling you about because it was too hot to handle. Well, you know that some of these folks enjoy being on TV, and so they're coming with me once again. One of those people, first person I want to tell you about is Mike Test. Mike Test is currently the director of the Australian Centre for the Study of New Zealand, and he's one of the original Swedish astronauts. It's good to see you again, Mike. I haven't seen you for at least 48 hours, I don't think.
It's good to see you too. And I just think back to that night when I lost my accent in a great car accident when you were so chuffed. We ran into that fjord.
I kind of missed that, but I'm getting used to it. You know, Mike, he's kind of humble. He doesn't talk about these things, but he's also known for his popular one-act play, The Lunch We Never Ate, which I think has just received a Distinguished Weapons Award from Halliburton or one of those weapons manufacturers. Anyway, he's got a lot of tricks up his sleeve. Now, my second investigator is clarification. And Clara is currently a research associate. I want to make sure I get this right. A research associate at the Stanford Institute's Mechanical Rhetoric Project. And I got to say this. She was once a hot weather chick. What I'm saying is, when we first met, before she worked for me, she was doing the weather on KCIA in Tallahassee. That show was so popular, weather or not, that they brought her back 5 or 6 times a day, even if there was nothing new about the weather. Am I getting that correctly, Claire?
Oh, yes, boss. That is
yeah.
correct.
And I got to tell you something. She was not known as Clarification then. She was known as Sue Casa, which is what I always call her. So if I slip up, you know, everybody here has been through any number of aliases. When they work for me, they have to change their identity as often as they change their, you know how that goes. Anyway, I've got another guest tonight who comes up with the stories that nobody else even understands, much less reports, and that's Alphabet. Al and I go way back, I think 4,000 or 5,000 miles back, but I'm not sure why. He's currently the interim administrator of the Lasagna as Art Institute, and he's the founder of the 5-Step program for bated breath. Is that a lot like some of these 12-step programs, Al?
It's
We
similar.
haven't really.
We're far more efficient, so we can do in 5 steps what some of these inferior organizations take 12 steps to do. And also,
All right, and
lasagna
people,
art goes way back to the 1500s. I believe Da Vinci was a practitioner of lasagna art. It's very unappreciated.
well, we were both on horseback at the time, as I'm remembering it. But I may have you confused with one of your alter egos. But you know, something Al is responsible for. This is not often mentioned. He was an inventor, and he still is. He's got a little workshop out back. He invented pollution back in 1870. We didn't have any before he thought of it. And in 1932, if memory serves, he designed the first crock pot. And that was before people had any recipes for crock pots. And then the electric baseball glove. I think that was 2012, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's one of my more recent success stories. But I am most proud of inventing pollution.
Yeah, well, you certainly made an impact with that one. It's all over the place now. We're going to talk about several things tonight. First, I think my producer is already doing an excellent job keeping an eye on some of the other members of the animal kingdom who may be joining us tonight. I think they are responsive to him. But us humans, we're going to talk first about election 2020, because that's what you people are talking about. I know that. And then after we do that, we're going to talk a little bit about going back to school, opening up our schools again. And then we're going to talk about the economy. And if we have a little time left over at the end, we'll talk about the current state of sports here in the big old USA. But let's get to that first area, which is the 2020 election. And I want to start by having my crack investigators weigh in on this New York Crimes presidential preference poll that just came out. It's one of the most comprehensive that I have ever seen. And it breaks it down by a lot of voting groups, and I am curious about this. For example, you see that Biden is leading Trump in all sorts of categories, all but a couple. One being borderline agnostics. That to me is news, because I thought most of the agnostics were in the Trump camp, right? Were? Or? I guess nobody.
I believe the previous polls did show a strong lead for Trump among borderline agnostics. So this is a significant seismic shift in the electorate, I believe.
Well, my emphasis was that they were in his camp. They weren't in the boardroom or the warehouse. They were in the camp. But okay, fine. They say that reluctant biologists are moving to Biden quite a lot. Now, do any of you know the difference between a reluctant biologist and a committed biologist? Am I missing something here? See, that's what I thought. It's a complicated issue. Or parking lot designers, almost entirely for Biden this time around.
That's their because they tend to be a more creative type of person, because it's very difficult to design a parking lot. I mean, there's so much creativity that goes into a parking lot that they tend to fall more strongly under Biden than they do under Trump.
I understand. Well, what about girls named Frank? The last time I looked, they were overwhelmingly for Trump. I guess this just goes to show that girls named Frank change their mind a lot.
Sorry, go ahead, Clark.
Well, I mean, everybody has the opportunity to change their mind anytime they want to. I mean, who's to say who you can be? Girl named Frank, if you want to be a boy named Sue, just do what you feel.
And it's interesting that almost every member of the Federal Ambivalence Association is in fact a girl named Frank. a little known fact that my crack sources have come up with.
I didn't know that.
True. That is true.
The one that puzzles me the most is the hip hop evangelicals who used to be solidly for their big, their big guy. I guess tonight we'll be referring to him by various names like the fearless breeder and so forth. But they used to be all behind him. I guess that's because he doesn't let anybody stand in front of him. Is that about it?
And
More to it than that?
The Kim Kardashian endorsement was a strong mover in that particular category.
Well, okay, so that's what we're talking about in terms of these 2020 elections. We see a whole lot of people suddenly deciding that they're somebody that they don't want it to be in charge, and I think it's more that than that they do want another old guy to be in charge, because most of the people in the country are a lot younger than these guys that are, rolling with the punches, so to speak, for their parties.
Well, Chief, I wasn't sure if you were going to go fully down the list. I was kind of waiting for you to get to my specialty, which was it's kind of eyeing those sperm trainers, because I didn't realize back in the day that sperm war trainers are. I just kind of figured on that special night they put on a London fog overcoat and sit out in their galoshes. Second group I would think is the shampoo experts. I figured they're the most politically fickle. So unless you're a proctologist or Gene Siskel or Gwyneth Paltrow's product line manager, no one needs to spend that amount of time studying excrement.
And
All right.
Getting back to the sperm trainers, it's I know a lot of people think they're disenfranchised and they more or less just wag the tail of the election. But I think they're going to come out strongly in this election and be a strong presence at the polls.
Okay, as long as they're not one of those invisible forces, I feel a whole lot more comfortable because, well, we'll talk more about invisible forces. The one exception, though, to where Biden seems to be doing better than Trump is, of course, the police state. And it's not actually a state, but it is a state of mind that I think the fearless breeder is trying to reconvene. I haven't seen anything like this since the Nixon era. I know that the use of force by people in uniforms can be persuasive, but when the people don't even have name tags and refuse to even give names, then I think that makes a police state at least highly intoxicating to a subset of our population. That's what the folks are telling me. Clara told me the other day that she had seen plans to roll out a police state in about 7 or 8 major urban areas here. So that seems to be the direction we're going in. Yes,
It's that lure of anonymity that is really attracting people, and that's
all right.
I had heard that one of the appeals of the police state to our clueless leader is that he thought Obama had invented 5 states because Obama frequently referred to 55 states.
Right.
Trump thought he wanted to invent the 56th state and he was going to name it the police state. So I believe that's where this whole movement started.
Okay, well, wherever it started, I think the signs point to Raymond's vehicle rental. We've got a slide here. This came from Mike. I don't know how he got a hold of it, but you saw all of those unmarked SUVs, which were being driven by law enforcement officers who also had no identities and who wouldn't say who they were. But I looked this invoice over. I am pretty amazed at the level of detail. For example, it says that these 75 vehicles that were rented here in Portland were rented by a guy who gave a code name Boo Boo, who said he was going to drive all of the rented vans. And he said, send the bill to the Department of Homeland Obscurity. I think we get a real sense of what's going on here, because what the fearless breeder seems to be trying to do is to obscure what the country is about and what rules are supposed to bind him and his administration. If I'm not too far off the mark there, my investigators tell me that there's a lot going on behind the scenes with these secret police. So let me see if I've got this order straight here. First thing was that the president's advisor said, let's try to make secret something that smells good, right? You have secret admirers and you have secret ingredients and recipes. So what's wrong with secret? Did I get that right?
You're about right. I have my concerns with the secret police. You go to these meetings and you declare your name and you try to manifest things, like I got mice in my house demonstrating for higher wages, right? Because that's what the little signs say. They want more cheddar. And all I think is that I want to fight back. And it seems like every morning I wake up and all my equipment has been sent somewhere out in Portland.
Well,
so the secret thing, I think, is a scam.
Well, see, this takes so what the presidential advisors decided, if I understand what you guys are telling me, is that, okay, we can't sell the secret, but we can say that these guys are police. They're not military, right? That was the next thing.
Well, maybe they're police. Maybe they're not. I guess they are because they got all the equipment, the weapons, and such. But it's all really confusing to me. And also, secret is just a terrible deodorant. I don't know why it's still on the market. It doesn't work at all, especially not in this humidity.
Oh, okay, well, so if I've got this right, the president's advisors gave up on saying that they were police, not military, because it turned out they were military, right? And so then they said, well, they're military, but they're really a squadron that was a hospitality squadron. They weren't the kind that would go into Iraq and Afghanistan and be shooting up small urban areas, right?
They're enforcement ambassadors.
I see that a lot of my investigators seem reluctant to talk tonight on it. I mean, has somebody
we're being a little bit intimidated.
got to you people? I mean, I'm still making the payroll, right?
I like that hat, Al. I can say that much. That's
all right.
Nice looking hat there.
I want to point out that the reason my sources tell me the reason they're using black vans to take people off the street is, number one, they want to match the color of the black helicopters. And then number two, they don't want to be confused with the people that are snatching people out of Kroger parking lots into white vans. So I thought that was interesting. There's actually some thought going into the color of the vans they choose.
All right, now we're starting to get into the level of detail that I expected from you guys.
The other interesting aspect is they're actually the police are actually a part of a sting operation codenamed Roxanne. So they're basically undercover police that are part of a sting operation, and they're the ones that are snatching the people off the streets into the black vans.
All right. I thought they were all reporters, but I stand corrected. The Republican convention, I think you may have noticed that the president finally decided he can't have something physical, so it's going to be virtual. And I think he misunderstood what that says. Now, it wasn't really that the hot dog vendor pulled out. I believe the scuttlebutt these days, because the president is tweeting madly, of course, he thinks that Dr. Fauci may have poisoned the water supply in North Carolina and then in Florida also, being one step ahead of him. So they're going to have a virtual convention like the Democrats did. But wasn't there a discussion behind the scenes between the advisors and the big guy about virtue, because he thought he was going to have to broadcast his virtues He thought that's what a virtual convention will be.
He doesn't understand the whole concept of virtue. So what they actually was First Lady Melvanka that actually convinced him that it was going to be a virginal convention, and that really piqued his interest when he envisioned a virginal convention. So they haven't really told him that it's not a virginal convention; it's a virtual convention. So it'll be
all right.
well,
One thing he's already doing is he's doing online rallies. He understands that Zoom has some other use besides important TV shows like this. So I understand he had a big online rally, and that a whole bunch of his supporters signed in as QAnon, and there really can't be 35 of them. I think there couldn't be any more than 7 or 8 real fake QAnons, if you see what I mean. But the talk from the White House was that the online rally was so successful, there were so many people trying to get in, that it burned up part of the internet. It just, everything went down. But what I found out, this is because Mike Test, he still talks to some of his fellow Swedish astronauts. It turns out there was a UFO crash in New Jersey. Before it crashed, there was an attempt, I think, to abduct about 15,000. They seem to be Trump supporters. That may not be important. I don't know. But that's why everything crashed, was because of that. I mean, any more information we have on that?
Well, I mean, Q is basically how these individuals brand themselves. They apply it, whether it's an application to a fraternity or a tattoo in a parlor shop or in a boardwalk that's shut down. They're going to give themselves this new mark of the devil, which is clearly ironic. And this is how the aliens are supposed to mark either their shoulders or their rear ends in order to do proper testing.
Well,
the probe
that explains a lot, maybe too much. In any case, I understand that the next rally will not be a Zoom type rally because they had so many problems, and they'll probably have other problems at their virtual convention. But the next one will just be online at Trump 2024. That's what I hear. While Trump is trying to behave as if there's nothing going on, there's a lot of campaign year books coming out here. One of them, oddly enough, or maybe it's not odd, is a cookbook on half-baked ideas. That one is pretty popular, and I kind of like some of the recipes there. I'm trying them myself. They're troubling.
Yeah, one of them I came across basically, and I really favor. So it goes something like this. What if you mix 2 eggs, half cup of powdered sugar, pound of unsweetened cocoa powder in an Nalgene bottle, of course, canola oil, and a sip of vanilla extract. All right, now instead of putting it in the oven for 45 minutes, you put it in for 22, and then you send an email to Mitch McConnell and ask him to protect Medicare.
That is half-baked, but it's halfway entertaining anyway. So I read that book too. I couldn't put it down. I mean, the way they made the book, it's got all this glue on the, so once you pick it up, you actually can't put it down. Another one, though, that really grabbed my attention was Law and Odors. This is by Kuda Scheppel. Kuda Scheppel used to be one of my favorite authors, but I think she turned out to be a lizard or something, and it's not a real name. But anyway, it does cover the smell of, what was that Shakespearean line?
I think it was the pong of police work or the effluvium of law enforcement, maybe.
That's it.
There's another interesting connection here, boss, with the Law and Odors. Turns out my sources tell me that the way Putin controls Mr. Clueless Leader is he actually pumps different odors into the Oval Office. So, for example, if he wants the president to calm down, he puts in the odor of French fries. The odor.
I understand.
Get him mad, and then if he pumps in the odor of chicken, that causes Trump to actually withdraw troops from Germany.
So that's how that happened.
Yep, that's the.
I wish you told me that this afternoon.
That's the.
I mean,
I just learned about it, boss, just recently, you know. But that's the kind of information you can only get on your show. The mainstream.
that's right. That's right. Information I didn't even know until you said that. Okay. Another campaign era book. This time, Frying Pandemic. This is by somebody who calls herself Mary Mary. I think we know who that is. The subtitle of the book: A nervous niece pulls the plug on the man who couldn't fix her air conditioner or the country he tried to hypnotize with funny money and bad manners. I have a favorite chapter here. This is where Mary Mary says that she went on a camping trip with her uncle somewhere in the frozen Northwest, whatever that is, and that after they were there a couple of days, he said, watch the tent and keep a guard on my iPhone while I'm gone. I've got to go to Hackensack to pick something up. And he came back with a big lizard. This is the second time a lizard came up. But before they roasted it there at the camp, they took turns calling it by derogatory names. That says a lot about our beerless feeder. But did y'all have any favorite parts of that book that you wanted to mention?
I must confess, I was unable to read the book. I had a really bad case of chapped lips that day. What had happened is I drank a whole bottle of NB 2020 the night before in an effort to become a certified Facebook expert on transmissible diseases. And that, for some reason, caused a reaction in my lips, and they chapped up, and I'm just not able to read with chapped lips. So I don't know if some
well,
of my
I'll try to mail you the audio book.
Okay.
You can
there
just
was a
listen.
chapter. There was a chapter that I liked. I think it was Peerless Tweeter, which was chapter 27, which talked about his toilet habits, and then Beaver's Squeezer, which talked about his early days, running half a dozen companies.
Yeah, I've read that one twice. But you know something? Amid these rumors, which they were going around briefly, and this is we're past it now, but briefly there was some talk that Trump might drop out of the race. Now, Clara, you told me that it wasn't the presidential race they were talking about. It was the human race, right?
Yes, it does seem that he does not meet the qualifications for being a Homo sapien, particularly the sapien part. If you're a student of Latin, as I am, that requires awareness of your own existence, just any form of intelligence. Really, one functioning brain cell will allow you to qualify as a Homo sapien, but he was unable to.
I thought 5/8 was what I heard.
That's normally true. However, he was unable to qualify for even 1/8. So despite the test, as it turns out, he sent someone in his stead to take the cognitive, the dementia test, as we call it, here in Great Britain. He did send someone in his stead to take it. It was, in fact, a Welsh Corgi, and the Corgi passed. And so now I won't go into detail, but there's been a rather large cover-up regarding this cognitive test.
And that explains a lot, because right after those rumors about him dropping out of the race, he was back in a big way. I mean, when I say big way, I guess you have seen the pictures of the new Mount Rushmore that is under construction right now. It includes the figures of not only the peerless breeder, but also his understudy, Mr. Putin, and his mentor, Mr. Nixon. And then I don't know who they're going to replace Honest Abe with, but it'll be probably someone who is not that honest.
I've heard, boss, that it's actually going to be Spiro Agnew, and they're going to have a elaborate ceremony with the senior citizens rhythmic gymnastics team. They're called the Nabram Nabobs of Negativism. So it should be quite an interesting opening when Spiro goes.
Oh, they had a hit record way back when. I mean, around the time you invented pollution, I think.
Yes, I believe it was. Pardon me, and I'll make you vice president.
Pardon me, I left it in the other room.
There we go. That was it.
Yeah, I left it in the other room. Anyway, so he's back. Not only is he projecting a new vision for Mount Rushmore, but he also has resumed doing daily briefings. And the idea was that he would be able to talk about, the epidemic, the pandemic, but so far he hasn't really talked about it. It looks like just another facet of the campaign. And speaking of the campaign, he wants to have a soundtrack for the campaign that is really with it. It's more than hip, very hip. And so he wants it to be multi-generational. Now, Tom Petty already told him, stop playing my songs, and Neil Young told him, stop playing my songs. So he wanted to play the Rolling Stones because they're sort of like multi-generational. You have, grandpas and grandmas bringing their nephews and nieces, their younger set, to see the Rolling Stones because everybody knows them. And I understand that before they told him to stop, there were a lot of Rolling Stone songs being played at his rallies. I know y'all, all three of you, have attended these reality bubbles in disguise, and I'm sure you heard it. He was playing "You Can't Always Get What You Want." Did somebody hear him do that?
He actually he sung along to his favorite line, which he apparently just loves. Which, of course, as I went down to the demonstration to get my fair share of abuse, he would just sing that. As the lyrics progressed beyond that point, he just kept singing that line over and over, and pretty soon the entire crowd was overwhelming the sound system by singing, "I went down to the demonstration to get my fair share of abuse." It was a fascinating exercise in crowd psychology.
When he started up the economy, I guess that's when he was playing "Start Me Up."
Yeah, and on the other end, I think that when he thinks about dropping out, it'd be appropriate if he goes for "Before They Make Me Run." I think that when he went to Walter Reed and sort of did the little shell game with the face covering, the background that I seem to hear in my head was "Ventilator Blues." So he's got a whole range of things to choose from to be rejected by the Stones.
And lately, I think he was in a kind of self-deprecating way because he can't self-deprecate out loud. He was playing "Out of Time," right? Right. I think the next one must be 19th Nervous Breakdown. That's where we seem to be headed with that, aren't we? Let's talk.
Yeah, and you know what? If I talk about a 19th Nervous Breakdown, okay, first of all, I was personally so offended by his use of the Rolling Stones because, Keith Richards and I had a thing back in the day, back in my weather days. So, so I called up Keith, as I do about, a couple of times a year. And I said, Keith, did you know that they're using Rolling Stones songs at these rallies? And, well, he could barely hear me. It was a terrible connection anyway. But yeah, talk about 19.
He was probably busy, I bet.
Oh yeah. Well, he's not too busy right now. They're not doing a whole lot.
Okay, all right.
Let's be honest. Yeah, we're supposed to get together later this week. So
Interesting, you had a thing with Keith Richards because his rumor has it his first lover was Queen Elizabeth I, is what my sources tell me. So,
I thought it was Dairy Queen of Scots.
What's that?
I thought it was Dairy Queen of Scots. The drive-in.
Yeah, I think you're probably right on that.
I think they had a little hot tub three-way action going between the cousins and Keith. That's what my sources tell me anyway. But
Well, I wonder if that's why she died. Yeah.
Speaking of sidekicks, another aspect of the election frenzy is the choice of a vice presidential candidate. So we have Trump here. He sent an email to several of us because we all secretly get his emails so that we can keep up with what's going on. And it appears that the only people that you could choose in this email poll that he sent you were Ivanka or Jared or Donald Jr. or Putin. So what you were going to get here is double your money on this. But so what is Joe Biden doing in response? Al just came across this when he sent it to me this afternoon. Biden apparently, Biden said he was going to pick a woman or pick on a woman or something, but he didn't say it would be a human. And in fact, he didn't even say it would be a mammal that I can recall now. So on this email that Al was able to get, we see that he's got a dog and a lizard. That would be about the third time a lizard came up, and a hummingbird and a skeleton. And I guess the idea is if all of these species could vote, it might be a good idea to sort of appeal to as many versions, flora and fauna.
Yeah, but, of course, boss, his primary his primary criteria in choosing a vice presidential candidate is that he or she has good smelling hair. So I believe that dog is a golden retriever, and they have an affinity for water, so that they're constantly getting in and getting muddy. And when they come out, their fur does not smell very good. So I'm pretty sure we can rule the golden retriever out as the vice presidential candidate. Now the skeleton, if they can implant some good smelling fauna in the skeleton's head, I believe that would be an excellent choice as his vice president. I think he would lean in that direction.
I thought the appeal of the skeleton was that we were going to just try to go back to when it was calmer under Obama, not that there would be anything new going on. So
it also represents a new, leaner, more efficient form of government. They're thinking of calling the Biden administration's plans in that regard the Skeleton Crew Enhancement Project.
Okay. Well, it's getting clearer all the time. There's another aspect of this. Clara, I think you know something about this too. I thought this was just proof positive that even small Republican, or if you want to call them red state areas, could do something efficient, in running government on, small change. They have these drive-through centers where you can take your pandemic COVID-19 test, and while you're there, you can also vote. You just turn over your ballot. But apparently, that's not really efficient. As I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong now, they think that most people who don't want to be tested are probably in the Trump camp, or as I said, in the warehouse or in the back room, in the waiting room or something. The people who are going to be testing themselves are probably going to vote for Joe Biden. And so a lot of those ballots they're handing in are going straight into a garbage bin. Is that about the way it goes?
Yes. In theory, the drive-through testing plus voting, all that it's wonderfully efficient. But yes, as you mentioned, the Trump voters who did opt to self-test, unfortunately, were swabbing their ears and just various other orifices about which we will not speak.
Right.
So in theory, it's a wonderful practice, but unfortunately, it's actually not really all that good of news because a lot of those ballots are going to go in the trash, and all those people that are probably voting for Trump. They're, they'll be fine, but everybody else getting their ballot trashed. The one good thing about it is you get a free milkshake, and you get a coupon.
I didn't know
You get
that.
a coupon to come back and vote again.
I may have to go vote again.
Getting back to your
Good
earlier,
idea, boss.
where the corgis were taking the test for Trump, is there a mass fraud, Clara, with corgis taking COVID tests? And we all know corgis can't catch COVID, so that's fraudulently skewing the results. Have you heard anything with regard to that?
Who was talking about a corgi?
Huh? But
He's got dogs on his mind, and this race has
I don't know
gone
about
well.
anybody talking about corgis and tests. I don't know anything about that.
One thing we do know, there's a lot of talk going around about turning Texas blue. And I was misled originally. See, first thing, when I was driving by the disaster dome the other day, I noticed that somebody had been spray painting a little blue. And then I noticed on TV, when Ted Cruz was on TV, that his beard was now painted blue. So I was thinking, well, maybe there's something to this talk about turning Texas blue. And then I found out about the Churning Texas Blues Festival, which I think some of you are going to. I know I haven't seen Beverly Doodah Blues Machine or Blues Engine for years, and they are one of my favorites. But anyway, the fact is that Mike Tess set me straight. There really
It's pretty
is.
simple.
Yeah,
It's
people
pretty
really
simple. So in Texas, they're turning blue because everybody's holding their breath, waiting for Governor Abbott and Donnie Trumpinello to tell us when we can actually start planning for this disease to go away.
I have seen a lot of people looking that way, and I wondered if it was just something at the grocery store that didn't agree with them. But of course, it could be some people at the grocery store that.
I would say yes. It's the
Yeah.
COVID shop. It's the Kroger shoppers who are disagreeable.
Yeah.
I did it,
And
Mike.
some of the Walmart shoppers too that wear the, the T-shirt. I think we saw a slide of that earlier, didn't we? The obvious T-shirt. But in any case, no, we don't have that slide, I guess.
The Trump are very concerned with illegal immigration of Smurfs. They're worried that could possibly turn Texas blue as well. So you'll be hearing more about that as my sources flesh out that rumor.
All right. Well, here's what I want. Let's see. Before I leave this subject of the 2020 election campaign, is there anything you guys want to add that I may have overlooked? I know there's a lot going on.
I think the resurgence of the demon sexual slaves is going to be a big scandal when they discover that Epstein has actually also used demon sex partners, and I think that could really tip the election in Biden's favor.
Well, going back to that first slide you saw, the New York Times presidential preference poll. If I have heard this correctly, because there's nothing proper about it, but I have heard, for example, that assistant captains of industry are having astral sex, right? That swamp cleaners are known to be devotees of, I don't know if I should call it a cult or not. It's sort of a medical cult about, it's kind of like the modern version of a chastity belt because some of these people are having sex with, I thought it was lizards, but you're saying it's astral.
You just maybe a bit off topic, but do you know how you get in on that? I mean, it sounds like that would be a lot of fun.
I was sending y'all an email later. I think we can, if we do a group thing, I think we can get a discount and we'll anyway. I'll talk to you all after the show about how we can. You may have to change your name again, Al, but I'm sure you're used to doing that. And Clara, you may have to. I may have to sign you in as Sue Casa, but I think we can. I think we can get in.
I'm quite used to using false identities when it comes to sex, so I'll have no problem with that, Wes.
Rumor has it that Richard Branson actually started Virgin Galactic just waiting for this moment. If you notice, the stock prices of Astro Glide have now become part of the empire of Virgin Galactic.
No,
So I think this is a long-term plot on his part.
Oh, that is a long term.
Do you know if Bill Gates is playing a role in this?
Yeah.
Cosplaying, I understand, as a medieval knight in order just to play foil. It's mostly tin foil. In fact, all the people who are following this tend to be advocates for the tin foil mafia.
Interesting.
And so it goes. Let's move on to another subject here. We've pretty much drained the election of all of its relevant fervor, but there is a lot of debate going on at the present time about whether or not we should open schools in the fall, and if we do, what is that going to look like? Now, I know mostly people are just thinking, well, it's pretty expensive to have childcare, and I am tired of being home watching TV, so I need to get back to work. So some of these schools that are closed, that is to say locked up right now, can open without that meaning that there are actually any classes or anything. I think that for the most part, there's been a move to have high school football come back, but the debate teams, for example, are going to have to debate by telephone or Zoom or something like that. I'm not sure there will be any classes. What I'm saying is they might just open the place up as a big daycare. But here's the other thing, and Mike told me he couldn't confirm this yet. Some students are, if they're planning to be in a menial occupation anyway, like they're going to go work at the burger joint, they can get a high school equivalency diploma without even going back for their senior year. So that will cut out a lot of classmates. I mean, you don't have to have a senior year if you're just going to go work or work at the car wash, or you see what I'm saying? There.
Well, yeah. So the correlation here is that you notice a big uptick in people working as checkout counter and stock people in large grocery stores. This gives them special access to the various Fruit Loops, flakes, nuts, that entire vast store of materials by which you can, in the bottom of the cereal box, you can get this certificate much more easily when you've cornered the market, so to speak, after hours, because now you have all these kids who have the ability to earn special opportunities by whatever they find as a prize in the bottom of that carton.
That's fascinating. I can remember when there used to be really valuable things in the Cracker Jack box, but anyway, there were some jewelry that I wish I still had. I mean, it was high quality polyethylene something or other.
My first wife came from actually I exchanged. It wasn't in the cereal box itself, but I traded in 27 box tops, and I was rewarded with my first wife. So that was quite a few years ago.
Is that the one that lasted a few weeks, Al?
Yeah, she was the longest term.
30 days.
30 days, roughly 10 times the normal marriage for me. So it was
that's
the fact that she was catatonic the entire time made it slightly easier for the marriage to last.
Super. While we're talking about opening schools, you know, a lot of teachers have decided they don't want to go back. So we have been looking at stories like that in the Des Moines Denunciator lately, talking about new gigs for retiring teachers, and have y'all been hearing what teachers? Well, I know of one success story, so let me just point that out. And then if you know something, you should bring it in. But I know there was a math teacher who invented a product called the truth softener, and he's not going back to teaching anymore because he's made millions of dollars already. I personally tried the truth softener. Every night when I watch the news, it goes down easier if I have some truth softener before things start. Have you heard any other success stories about teachers making a transition to some other kind of work?
I have one where I've heard of it. I don't have any personal experience with it, but where nuns make excellent dominatrixes, and so there's actually and I believe it was right here in Houston, in fact, although it's just a rumor. I have no personal experience with it. There's Sister Mary. She came back.
You never have personal experience about half of the things you tell me are important.
Yeah, well, she's actually part of a traveling troupe of nuns. They're called Sister Mary and the Nasty Habits, and they, of course, they wear their habits, and they're very skilled with the use of the ruler.
With the whip.
And, well, they do well with the ruler, and then the little clicking thing that they use to make you respond. But
yeah, I remember the rulers.
This is all rumors and things. I have no personal experience with any of this.
Well, let me cut to the obvious thing. A lot of students going back or being told to go back to school because some of them don't really want to, are being given another opportunity, which is to work as police. Because if we do open the schools up again, then it's going to be a question of how do we enforce social distancing, keeping all of these high school and middle school and grade school children 6 feet apart. When we went to, when the three of us, anyway, we'll get into that later. That's another story that people don't need to hear about now.
Are they not going to just make it like a prison chain gang where you string them out and they have to stay 6 feet apart by the length of the chains?
They seem to have run out of chain link. Too many. It's a question of economics, so that's why I put it right. Well, since we're talking about economics, let me just talk first about a subject that we were all talking about earlier in the week, which is killing zombie brands. If you haven't heard that expression, a lot of your big companies have some of these subsidiary brands. They try them out, and if they do well, great. If they don't, especially in this current environment, they are just jettisoning these other brands. So, for example, there's a product called Emo Eggs, and I really, really like Emo Eggs. I'm going to miss them quite a lot. I know most of y'all don't eat breakfast, okay? Then also we have Prepared Air, which comes in several flavors. I especially like swamp scent.
Yes, in fact, I do believe that this particular product is sort of going the way of the dodo, because so many families with more time on their hands now are staying home and preparing their own air. I know I do personally. I rather like this flavor. I did stock up on Prepared Air. It's a wonderful grab and go experience, and yeah, quite lovely, really. And I will miss it. I will miss it. I'm a bit too busy to prepare my own air, but more power to you, Americans. It's so quaint.
You know, is that the brand? That's the Devo brand, isn't it?
Why, yes, it is.
That's super. I wish we had time to cover more about the economy, but we're getting close to the end already. So I do have to tell you about Tesla, and let's just cover this as fast as we can. Tesla is supposed to be moving to Austin to create a gigafactory and they're going to produce their new truck there. If you've seen a picture of this, you know this is one of the ugliest things I have ever seen. It's a truck without wheels. But people are telling me that's not what they're really producing there. They're really producing an electric tree to take the place of all of the things that have been torn down in the Amazon. I don't know if that's even possible, but somebody told me, and it's one of you. You told me it was.
That was me, boss. And yeah, the trunk is made of a cross polymer between polyethylene and polypropylene that's cross-linked with sulfur, and all the branches are filled with photovoltaic devices. So basically, with the intent for Tesla is he's going to have all the trees in the world cut down and replaced with Tesla trees, and that's the green solution to the future of energy. So you hear it again on your shows, the only place you hear these things.
Well, Al, in this case, Mike has a source that says something else, and that is that because professional sports are in such a bad way, all the sports are being played before empty stadiums or empty field houses. And it's said that he might be creating artificial sports fans who will be just like the real thing. They'll cheer it. But what Mike really told me this afternoon blew my mind. He said, no, they are really trying to produce athletes, new athletes, because we already know that the Florida Marlins have a bunch of people who are sick. They're not going to be playing Major League Baseball. So they might be replaced with some bionic sports figures, and maybe do I have it right, Mike? That might be what Tesla is doing.
You do. Now, we can't actually say how he came across this information, although I will say that I ran into Grimes, and it was rather inadvertent because she was nursing at the time, so she didn't respond as efficiently or as enthusiastically to my question as I had hoped. Merely, I asked her what was going on in Austin, what was her opinion, and she told me, frankly, I don't gig a truck.
I see. Well, folks, we could go on and on. We've just begun to scratch the surface, but unfortunately, we're running out of time already. So what I have to tell you is, until we can get together again to talk about things like this, you just go out there and get yourself in some good trouble.
I got no problem with that, Paul. You know that. Yeah.
Okay, boss.
How many stairs must a man with bad judgment fall down
Be America.
before he
Love
decides
you.
to take the elevator?
You might dealing with you.
And how many explanations will some
Marlins
people
COVID, I don't
swallow
think
like
fish could get COVID.
goldfish
As it made the
until
test.
they
so
are stuffed to the
what about
gills?
corgis?
Yeah.
They didn't think
And
they
what
could get
are
it
the
either.
consequences
This
of
is
attempting
becoming
to
more
learn
of
the
an
techniques
interesting.
of hula at home?
As it turns out,
as opposed to
corgis
performing them in the
indeed
company
can
of
get COVID,
professional
as well as
instructors.
pass
The
cognitive
answer to the
tests
question,
better
my
than the
simple little
45th president of the United
Bowling
States.
in the wind with Bob and
I
Carol
learn
and
something
Ted
every
and
time I
Alice in
sit down.
Wonderland.
Folks.
The Queen Elizabeth has corgis then,
And how
because
many
they have most of the
helpings
intelligence in the
of
royal
Lyme
family.
souffle
Indeed,
do
indeed.
some wrestlers
And they don't have
consume?
some nasty proclivities that perhaps some of the other
And
members
who
of the royal
really
family.
speaks
I
for
suppose
the
if I
rugged
were married to
American
Philip, I would want
access to
someone of
sensitive
intelligence to
government
have a
files
conversation with.
and
Oh dear, are we still on?
comprehension of the uncertainty
Ah.
principle.
I think
What sort of
proclivities
a
are on
sport
sale
is
this
there
week.
left
I
for the
mean, I don't get out
self-styled
much,
defender of logical
but they mail
positivism
things
who
to
has
me.
very
Actually, they can be
little
used
in
at
startup
two dual
capital.
purposes. You can use proclivity as a
The
mask
answer
as
to
well.
my inquisitive
Interesting. They're quite effective.
Bowling
I thought it could be a
in the
verb
wind
or an
with Bob
adverb.
and Carol and Ted
I
and
mean,
Alice
as
in
well as a noun,
Wonderland.
of course.
So we didn't get to the point that Elon was going to lend out his new synthetic sports people to folks like the Washington team and the naming conventions of the failed titles like the Washington Ball Handlers or Schneider's Woke Fighters.
They're going to name them the Foreskins because that way the chant "Let's go Skins" they can still
Let's go Skins. Yeah.
Well, I know this much. One thing I'm betting on this season is that the Washington football team, they're going to have a guy catch a ball from the air and then run down a field toward a designated area. And, he might or might not score some points. We'll see.
I come home from work
That's why we like you on the show, Clary. You have such insights into things that the rest of us just don't seem to really be well versed in whatsoever. So,
I'll be honest. Yeah.
I had more to go. He was rushing me off the stage. I still had another page here, which we could have done, but no.
You didn't get any of our feline assistants. Did you see mine walk around the background?
I heard the feline assistants, but I didn't see them.
I also hear a feline assistant. That was adorable. And a canine assistant as well.
Well, we had stuff we didn't even get to here.
Oh, I know.
But there's
Also, I don't know if anyone caught the phantom door. that was pretty. It was Patrick coming out to take pictures. And the door just kept but at one point it just randomly opened and I thought, oh man, am I on camera? That was funny.
That works well.
Yeah.
So did we lose my slide, Mark?
Okay.
Okay.
Cigarette time for me.
Could you see the slides? I couldn't see them.
Yeah, I wasn't able to see him either, but I think I wasn't last time either. So.
We know.
Well, that'll make it interesting to watch the replay because the slides are pretty part of the theme. So.
Oh yeah, definitely.
We can never see him though, right?
Well, we don't see him here, but we see him when we.
I can't do that.
All right. So now we're off the air.
Did we crack the double digits on Facebook?
Well, I hope I didn't accidentally break down the fourth wall when I took off the wig. Hey, can we watch together?
I thought on a technical level it was all good. The audio was good and the video was good, and we did have some parts that we didn't have written in the script at all. So I always liked that.
Yeah.
Did it really? I have no idea if it worked at all.
It was great. I kept trying not to look at that corner because I was. There were a couple of moments where I tried not to laugh as well.
I'll have to make a point next time of looking straight up at his clock because I was looking at the microwave over there, and I think it's running slower than his clock, which is why. Otherwise, I would have sped up some of the parts in the middle.
I think I'm rocking the cowboy hat here.
That is a great hat, seriously.
Yeah. I think. No, we didn't get to hear the laugh, so it's easier to work. But I think cinematically, we have such different backgrounds that it should have been very visual.
Mm-hmm.
Very visual. Good.
Started a little slow, and then Paul kind of brought us around, I think. Thank you for that, Paul.
Well,
I have to run in a second, but did you notice that my two cameras are mic test senior and mic test junior?
Yes. No, that's great.
I was wondering what mic test senior meant. Now that I can focus on it, I get it.
Anyway, I have another Zoom call I have to get on right now that I'm late for.
All right.
Yeah, I need to go too because the gag with the Ready Whip, I actually just got an entire lung full of like pure nitrous oxide. So I was really glad that the timing worked out the way it did. 'Cause I'm like, wow, hold it together.
Whip it good.
Hold it together.
Whip it good.